All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time again to spin this big ol' wheel and figure out which retro game we are gonna play. Let's see here. Probably something good, because I own physical copies of all of these games. Crazy Taxi for the Dreamcast. All right. Let's make it happen, shall we? All right, Crazy Taxi. Let me just say up front that you are not going to hear any of the awesome soundtrack. There is a really good of the time soundtrack. This game is from 1999 originally, the arcade release, and then the home console release in 2000.
Let's have some fun.
So yeah, this is a game from a certain time, and in order for me to properly review it, in order for you to understand my review of it, you have to understand the time in which it came out. Because if you look at the gameplay footage, as you no doubt are at this point, we should be well underway. There should be driving. Yeah, I don't I record my voiceover and my gameplay separately, and I don't synchronize them because that would take way too long to make videos. So yeah, I don't engage in any of that highfalutin business of spending way more time editing videos than is absolutely necessary. So because I do have a day job, I am a busy guy. So yeah, I have a life outside of doing this. This is just for kicks and giggles. But thanks for being here. If you're here, there's some new people came in because I started giving games away again. That's all fine and good. Welcome in everybody, however you found your way here. This is my little channel. I review games like this. Anyway, let's get back to the point, no faking. Cooking those MCs like a pound of bacon. You know how it is. Anyway, so Crazy Taxi comes out in 2000 on the Dreamcast and on the PlayStation 1. Good, fine, sweet, amazing. Late entries for both of those consoles was the Crazy Taxi. But I remember this game being a hit. People liked it. People were like, hey, that's a fun game. If you're looking at this footage, you are going to be reminded of definitely one of two things. First, obviously, Simpsons Hit and Run. That is an obvious comparison. And then secondly would be any of the three-dimensional Grand Theft Auto games. So anything GTA 3 or later. Those two things. And, Simpsons Hit and Run was basically the exact same game as Crazy Taxi, more or less. It just, because you're driving, you're picking up people, there's a big glowing arrow over your head telling you where to go. It's basically the exact same game. It's just that Simpsons Hit and Run has all of that Simpsons charm, and you're actually driving around Springfield, which is exciting. It's a true to the series game that really carries the spirit of the game really well. You don't see game adaptations, games based on, pre-existing series and whatnot, coming out with something that is that immersive for fans, that is that, on the point exactly. Is the Simpsons Hit and Run. Obviously, there's a reason people love that game. I love that game. I remember where I was when I first played it. I was in a girl's bedroom. Yeah, that's right. A little scamp me back in college. Anyway, we just played video games. Nothing else. But yeah, I remember where I was. It's one of those games where you're like, man, this is fun, and look at how good this looks. You know, with that kind of gaming experience, which is funny because with every iteration of graphics, I remember going from 8-bit. Well, I remember first of all going from Atari to NES, and I was like, wow, the graphics. And then going NES to SNES and being like, holy Moses, the graphics, you know, and then PS1, and I was like, surely there are not better graphics than this. Which is funny because you look at PS1 stuff sometimes and you're like, it looks kind of dated. And yeah, Crazy Taxi looks a little bit dated, you know, and it looks dated because, like, Grand Theft Auto, this isn't the game. Like, Grand Theft Auto, this is just how you get around. Or if you choose to do taxi missions, or if you're playing, you know, Vice City and you get the taxi asset and you're doing them, you know, taxi missions. Yeah, sure, there's that. But it's just one mission in a much larger game. And by the way, Vice City is by far the best of the GTAs. Can we agree on this? It is Vice City number 1, San Andreas number 2, 5 number 3. That's the order. That I didn't invent that being the order, but that's the order. Then 4, then 3. And we'll see where 6 is. Anyway, regardless. But because a much larger game came out, it kind of negated Crazy Taxi and sort of, you know, I remember seeing it when it came out and I was like, oh yeah, that's awesome. And, you know, Simpsons Hit and Run at least had, you know, The Simpsons in it to make it, you know, extra fun. But GTA was like, yeah, Crazy Taxi is how you get around in our game. Like, so it kind of killed Crazy Taxi in a way. You know, I don't remember seeing as much interest in the sequel as there was in the original. Just because people were like, I can play Grand Theft Auto, and like, instead of, you know, picking up passengers who are just going to talk about how bad I drive, I could pick up friends who will make the suspension squeak for some reason. Anyway, yeah. And so people did. They went GTA, and Crazy Taxi kind of fell by the wayside. So just understand the timing. Sorry that it took so long to explain the timing, but Crazy Taxi comes out arcade 99, console 2000, that would be the Dreamcast and the PlayStation 1, and then Simpsons Hit and Run, or let's see, Grand Theft Auto 3 is 2001, the next year. And then Simpsons Hit and Run is 2003. But here's the other difference that you have to take into account is that Crazy Taxi, PS1, Dreamcast. Simpsons Hit and Run and GTA 3, Xbox, PS2. It is a generational difference. It is a year apart, but it is a generational difference, massive difference. And so, like, you can't look at Crazy Taxi and be like, oh, that's just the transportation system in GTA. Yeah, it is. I know. GTA is awesome. We all love it. We all love it. I mean, I don't know. I guess the royal we all love it. I can't speak for you. How dare I? But you know, gamers do tend to love it, and they're not wrong. It's super much fun. Now, let's give it another go. Crazy Taxi, in addition to its base mode, because it has arcade mode, which is I don't know how different it is from having a set time limit. Like, it seems very similar. Like, it plays so similar that you can hardly tell that, like, oh, right, these are different modes. But yeah, regardless of which mode you choose, you can go in, you can choose original or arcade, which is funny because the arcade is the original. Also, if I don't mention this, it's going to seem crazy. Yes, I'm aware that this is Japanese writing on the screen, even though in my collection on my RetroArch, because I do own a physical copy of this game, but the problem is that, you know, getting screen capture from the Dreamcast is a much bigger pain in the butt than just playing it on RetroArch and getting screen capture that way. And so, yeah, I had to acquire a ROM of the game. But I mean, it's legal because I do own a physical copy of the game. So, yeah, ROMs are for me at that point. Anyway, but yeah, it said it was a USA ROM. It is obviously Japanese, but there's enough English in it that I can tell what I'm doing, and all of the voiceover is in English and everything else. So yeah, it's weird, but that is what it is. Because the place where I legally acquired it was, you know, they were like, yeah, it's the USA one. That's how they titled the file. Anyway, so if you're seeing the Japanese and you're like, do you own the Japanese version? No, I own the American version, but anyway, emulation, it is what it is. Also, you can see I am terrible at this game. I am not great at this game. The drifting mechanics, I'm just trash at. I'm really not good at it. I'm a good driver in GTA, but that's because I always play it on the PC. Like, keyboard and mouse. Like, I'm a much better driver on keyboard and mouse than I am with a controller. It's weird, but it's true. You know, I prefer different controls for different things. If it's platformer, controller. If it's a racing game, keyboard and mouse. Most people wouldn't say that, but that's how I go. Anyway, so yeah, playing it with a controller is a bit weird because the shifting, it's two different buttons, one to shift into drive and one to shift into reverse. And that drives me a little bit crazy because it should just be the same button. Like, come on. Hit the button once, it goes into forward. Hit the button or into drive. Hit the button again, it goes into reverse. That would save so much time. But they're like, nope, two buttons. we put a lot of buttons on this controller, and I'll be danged if we're not going to use every last. Well, no, it doesn't use all of them. But I don't know. It seems like a decision that was like, nah, we need to use more buttons than we're using. Whatever, Crazy Taxi. As you've no doubt noticed, the car in the game is indestructible. You don't take car damage for slamming into people, but it does slow you down. You could end up in the wrong direction. You could have to, like, push somebody else's car for a while before it'll get out of the way, you know? So there are penalties to running into everything. Also, you get tips for driving well. You know, and it seems like those tips especially came if you cut something really close. So there's kind of a, like, do it, I dare you, like, get really close to that guy, and your passenger is interacting with you. Now, granted, you would not be able to hear the passenger interactions as well as, like, you hear them in the capture. because the music normally plays over it, and so it makes it a little harder to pay attention to what's happening with the passenger and what they're saying if the awesome soundtrack is playing, because it really does have a good, soundtrack of 2000. Like, they did a good job. Good on you, Crazy Taxi. Anyway, so yeah, controls are a bit wonky, but you can get used to it. And controls are wonky because like this type of game hadn't been perfected yet, because it would be in Simpsons Hit and Run and GTA, which like took the same, but like I would imagine that Crazy Taxi was a big influence on the things that came later. Like, there's no way you do Simpsons Hit and Run without like directly looking at Crazy Taxi and being like, okay, here's how to build a game like this. Because there's so many elements that carry over. And so like when you look at Crazy Taxi and its quirkiness, which is, a little quirky in the controls, you see some jitters and things where I like, run into stuff I'm not supposed to run into, and the car just freaks out for a minute, or, hitting a pole and not being able to extract myself from it. Yeah, problems of me not being a great driver. Anyway, you see some of these, jitters and issues and problems and whatnot, like, which make it more endearing now than it was at the time, in terms of like, if you got these glitches and whatnot at the time, and you paid like $60 for the game or whatever. I don't remember what games were back then. I don't remember the going price of a PS1 game or of a Dreamcast game, because I didn't start collecting for those until the PS2 was out. And then you could get Dreamcast and PS1 stuff cheap. It was awesome. Yeah, always buy a generation late. Like PS4, we're about to hit that PS4 Prime. Some of the stuff is already going that way. Like, PS3 stuff for the last little bit is basically given away by the shovelful. So, like, yeah, buy stuff that people will be nostalgic for next, because if you had bought, GameCube back when it was much cheaper, which I did, and somebody took my Pikmin 1 and 2 and on them, whoever that was that has my Pikmin 1 and 2, which I purchased for my wife, who loves those games. But like, those games are worth a fair bit today, But yeah. So, getting back to it, I'm in a rambly mood, and I apologize that you're having to listen to this. And I apologize that I'm not going to release a short form version of this, because I am running out of time this weekend, because I put everything together on the weekend and then I schedule it out during the week. That's how I do my workload of uploading stuff for this channel. Anyway, regardless, not to engage in too much shop talk, but like, apologies to the people who like the, TLDR reviews, the short ones, the shorty shorts. I will get back to doing those eventually. It's just, it takes a little more editing time, and I don't have that kind of time this week, so... my apologies. I do have a life, or at least try to. Anyway, back to it. So yeah, Crazy Taxi, it's a silly goose of a game, but it's still fun. Like, it's still fun, because sometimes you really enjoy those taxi missions in GTA. Like sometimes, you know, like, or even the vigilante taxi missions where you just, you know, steal a cab and then you can choose whether or not you want to just start picking up fares. And you can just start picking up fares. And it's a good time, but it's sometimes, if you want to do that, it's kind of a pain in the neck to go find. You have to drive over to the airport and then, you know, stop in front of a taxi, beat up the driver, hope no cops come, which you probably will because they're over by the airport. Yeah, it's the whole thing. So yeah, Crazy Taxi, you just put it in and it's automatically that. It's automatically like, here we go, be a taxi driver, but be crazy about it. It's like, if you ever wish there was more Simpsons Hit and Run, well, this is the precursor. This is the prequel. This is the granddaddy. So yeah, there kind of is. So even though Crazy Taxi, looking at it now, if you didn't know where it came from, and the fact that, yes, even though it is closer to GTA 3, like, nobody was prepared for the seismic shift in the concept of gaming, because GTA 3, like, is now the worst GTA. The main character it's the worst GTA of the 3D ones. You know, 1 and 2 are their own thing. They're related, kind of, like some of the things hold over, but like,
let's have some fun.
Yeah, not the same experience at all. GTA 3 gave us the first GTA experience, the first like 3D sandbox experience, but a lot of things were missing. And those things were fixed in the best game in the series, Vice City. Like, we all know Vice City is the best, which Vice City only came out a year later. So 2 years after Crazy Taxi, we had this massive shift in gaming with the introduction of the real, you know, 3D sandboxy stuff, and then we get our Just Causes and our Saints Rows and all of those sorts of things. Like, we get all of these things because we had Crazy Taxi first, you know, like, and it invented getting around in a world by being a complete maniac and having everybody else react to you. Like, that's what it brought to the table, you know. I mean, I'm pretty sure Carmageddon predates Crazy Taxi. I'm like 99% sure, but I'm not willing to look it up. But that game, everybody is like, no, you're a maniac. Like, that's just the base assumption. And in Crazy Taxi, everybody is like, yeah, I'm just going to mind my business until you come careening toward my face, and then I'll scream and jump. Very similarly to, you know, what would eventually become the way that NPCs react in GTA and stuff. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting little nugget of gaming history, but it's also still fun to play. You just have to remove from your brain, like, any feeling that it's going to be any more than what it is. Oh, I should mention before I close, yes, there are the little mini mission, I forget what they're called. I just captured this footage. The other game modes that are like little mini games, you know, kind of a precursor to what Flat Out did. With Flat Out 2 especially, which I've reviewed on this channel and loved it, and it was awesome. But yeah, very similar to how Flat Out 2 was like, oh, and there's all these mini games that, like, for some people, actually for Flat Out, that's like the reason you get that game is because of all those mini games. Crazy Taxi has its own mini games. They're not as crazy or inventive as the ones in Flat Out 2, but they're still pretty fun. They're hard. Like, a lot of them are really hard, and you will have seen by now. You will have seen me do poorly at it. Anyway, this review is getting super long, so super apologies to those of you who normally like the shorty shorts. Let's put a final score on it. Alright, so for Crazy Taxi, let's put a final score on it and be done. The final score is going to be an 8 out of a possible 10 clods from GTA 3, the strong silent type. Yeah, his name is Claude. I don't know if you knew that. I had to look that up because I was like, it's something ridiculous. It's like a Jason Statham character. It's like, oh yeah, Claude. Anyway, he doesn't like to talk, do you know what I mean? Because he's Jason Statham is actually him, and they don't want to find out he's, he's British, not this, that. He's Cockney. Even worse. Do you know what I mean? Anyway. So, yeah. There you go. There is your 8 out of a possible 10 clods. And it's late, and I'm going to bed. Sorry for the long review, but 'tis what 'tis. It is what it is. It do what it be. It do be how like it is. And anybody who says it isn't, I don't know, is lying or selling something, which is lying to try and sell you something. Anyway, all right, people, that's gonna do it for this one. I will see you in the next one. Okay, bye.